Hi, this is Saima here, and I was here to help you out in your portfolio, in making your portfolio. So once you'll download your folder from Edmodo, you'll have something to look like this. Okay, when you're going to extract the files out of it, you'll get to see the portfolio template, portfolio guide, and the evidence of practices. There are certain formats in the evidence of practices, okay, which may be a learning story, classroom observation, learning log, reading log, project, and journal activities, okay, reflective journal. Now, when you're going to start working, all you need to do is start working with your portfolio template first. Okay, this is what template looks like. When you're talking about all these evidences, every item in your portfolio should have evidences. That means it's going to prove what you're doing. Okay, what you're going to write, it needs an evidence, needs a proof. So this is how you're going to put that up. Like for example, if it is your personal details, your last degree is mandatory. Similarly, professional development certificates is essential to be added over there. Job responsibilities, there's nothing mandatory, but you can put in the job description if you want, or any other relevant document that you think should be there as your job responsibility in the evidence. Okay. Statement of teaching philosophy may have a reflection from learning log, reading log, any really short screenshot on anything that you think should be there as part of the evidence in creating your teaching philosophy. Okay. As far as your competencies are concerned, again, up to you. Then mention about project. When you talk about project, you need to put in the project plans. You need to put in your lesson plans. Learning story, maybe. Observation record if you want to add. Curriculum, maybe. Early childhood framework. Planning guidelines, observation record, sheet, questioning learners. It's all mentioned over here, okay? Reflection. As far as reflection is concerned, when you're writing down, when you'll be done with the project, when you'll implement the project, you'll need to put in your reflection in which you're going to talk about what did you learn. So here you can put in the key images of the key movement, and then learning log maybe, reading log again maybe, literature reference if you want to put in, online VLE screenshot. VLE is basically virtual learning environment, which is your Edmodo. Okay. Now, start with the personal details in your portfolio template. You're going to put in your name, your ERP number, school name, academic qualification, professional qualification, key skills. Now, key skills, you Google it on internet and you'll find a list of key skills and see which particular key skill do you think you have. Okay, so add those key skills over there. Then key achievements, if there are some key achievements for you in your academic life, professional life, wherever, so you feel that's an achievement for you, you can add that over here. And then personal strength, definitely. For example, myself, uh, I am innovative. I like to do something creative every time. So that's my personal strength. I can't do something that's a routine task. Okay, so that's personal strength. So you need to identify your personal strength and put it over here. Email address and contact number. Now coming down to job responsibilities. This is total 400 words. That means if it is you're writing for both the teaching responsibility and the administrative responsibility, both of them should come down to 400 words and not more than that. So teaching responsibility is basically when you're teaching in the classroom. So planning, teaching, resources, maybe environment creation or whatsoever, whatever is pertaining to your classroom is your teaching responsibilities. Other than that, everything is administrative. If you're going out for late duties or you're doing something other than teaching, that's considered to be an administrative responsibility. Okay. Now, coming to statement of teaching philosophy. When you talk about teaching philosophy, you need to consider certain questions in mind. What are your goals? What do you want to demonstrate? Where is it coming from? How do you feel about it? And then what is your approach towards it? What role will the student play in your classroom? And what teaching practices do you use and do you prefer using? Like for myself, I believe that the classroom environment should be completely a child-centered environment. Okay, and with more autonomy with the students, wherein a good rapport with teacher and between teacher and student, and teacher working as a guide or a facilitator or a mentor. So that's my teaching philosophy. So what's yours? Coming down to competencies checklist. Now these are derived out of an international standard, which is California standard. Okay, so all you need to do is look into the California competency guide, which has been provided to you at the orientation time. Okay, go through that competency guide, and over here we've already mentioned some criteria. So where do you think you stand? Now this was supposed to be done before you start with your course. So consider yourself 6 days before, a week before the course began. So do you think that in the field of knowledge and understanding you were aware of the principles and the content of the curriculum and how to put it into practice? Were you really aware? See, be very honest over here, because if you're not going to be honest, you won't be able to show progression. Okay, right now if you say that you knew everything at this point, then there will be no change in you when you're done with the course. So this was supposed to be done before the course begins. Okay, so if it is that you haven't done it, but keep it in mind that you have to fill it, keeping it yourself before the course. Okay, then effective practices again. Do you think that you make effective personalized provisions to the children when they work with? Okay, and then the relationship with children, how you know the ways of how to establish fair, respectful, trusting, supportive, and constructive relationship with children. So how do you rank yourself? It is that you're very confident, or you are somewhat confident, or you need support. So in any case, you need to comment on it. Okay, so it's like if you are in between confident and somewhat confident, you would like to say that I'm aware of it but I don't know how to practice it, then you may write it in your comment. Say somewhat confident and then write it in a comment that you are able to, but you're not really practicing it. Now this is what you just have to fill it with a tick, so not a big deal otherwise. Now coming down to what do I need to know, learn from this course. Again, this was supposed to be done before the course. So what were your expectations from the course? Don't write, learning theories, or you talk about Vygotsky or Piaget, because at that particular time, maybe you did not even know about who Vygotsky was, or who Piaget was. So don't talk about that. But yes, you may write about teaching and learning, maybe classroom management, because these are our concerns before even we get into any course, right? So talk about that. That comes down to project. Okay. Before you fill in the project file over here, I would recommend that you go and fill in the project file in the evidence folder, which is right over here. Now over here, when you open up your project file, it's here, project plan. You're going to talk about learner's profile. Okay, when you talk about learner's profile, go and look for different templates you will find online of how to collect a student's profile. So if you have 25 students in your classroom, you need to have a profile of each of your child. How are you going to do it? Interview parents, maybe interview the child, and then find out all those things about the child and keep it in your folder as a reference, which becomes student's profile for you. Okay, this is when you're going to refer it when you're going to be working with them or working out the project with them. So when you're going to sit down and reflect on your project, you may need to refer to child's portfolio in reference to their profile, which you created in the beginning. So you might see progression, or you might see that how it helped you in creating your activities. Okay, so you're going to tell about their age range. That means you have students which is 2 year, and then you have student who's the eldest, which is 3 years. So you have an age range of 2 to 3 years too. Then group size, that means how many students do you have in your classroom? 24, 25. You have to mention that. Range of abilities. Now this is how you're going to get this from your profile, that what kind of abilities your students already have. And then learners need, if there are some special needs, you need to mention them, or maybe particularly you might find something from your profile, and then any other information which you think is significant to be entered as a learning profile. Okay, now come down to learning aim or goal. It is a statement which is coming out of the curriculum. So make sure that you look into the curriculum very carefully. If it is English, then look into English. Whichever you're taking it as in particular, you talk about that. You may also take more than one curriculum. It can be an integrated project. So you may have English and maths together. Okay, so in maths, they are doing calculations, but at the same time, they are writing it down somewhere in English. So it is an integrated project, or maybe it's an English project wherein the students are making drawing something. So that has an art integration in it. Okay, so that's an integrated project. Now, when you have an integrated project, you might have one target from English and one target from art. Or maybe if it is one English and maths, then one target from English, the other one from maths. So you're going to write both the targets over here, but make it into a statement which provides the scope of the subject and overall intent of the course. Extract this from the curriculum, which may be in the form of target or objectives. It's already clearly mentioned, so you'll be able to derive out of it. And then learning objectives. We have already been through in the course about how to make smart objectives. So keeping the targets in mind, you have to derive different smart objectives out of the same. Now it has to be thematic. Don't just bring everything into one plate and try to serve that. Maybe make it a theme. Maybe if it is if it is numbers that you want to teach them and you want to integrate with English, then have a story which has numbers in it. Okay, so that's going to be a project kind of a thing which has English and maths at the same time. Got it? So once you've selected your curriculum target, you need to extract your objectives, learning objectives, and make it really, really smart. Okay? Okay. If you're putting up this very clearly, I don't think there'll be need to put up a lesson plan. Okay? So, number of days. How many days will your project go for? It may be 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, 8 days, 10 days. That's totally up to you. We have left it open-ended for you. Okay? So, mention your number of days here, and then maybe day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. Somewhat like this. That's your day 1. In this column, say which objectives are going to be covered for particular learning session. Now, you've already written your learning objectives over here. So what you need to do is pick up those learning objectives and paste it over here, but the ones which you're going to use it in a particular lesson. So let's say this is day 1's lesson and you're picking up 2 objectives. So you're going to put up those 2 objectives. See, in a lesson there should be maximum 3 objectives and not more than that. Okay, so try to keep it limited. So if you're going to address those 2 objectives, just put those 2 objectives over here. And then in this column, say what learners are doing and what the teacher is doing. That means the entire lesson plan is coming up over here. Maybe, but very clearly mention that when the students are doing this, teacher is doing this. Teacher is doing this, learner is doing this. So mention, try to be consistent in what you're writing. If it is that you're using learner for students, then use learner throughout your portfolio. If it is something else that you're using, then use the same thing. I would suggest go for learner. Okay, they are learners and you are teachers. So teacher is going to do this, learner is going to do this. Okay, so no other vocabulary other than this. Okay, then next column, show the resources that will support the teaching and learning activities. Whatever resources are you using? If it is the material, if it is the the clay or the ICT resource, whichever resource it is, you have to mention that clearly over here. And then assessment. If it is assessment for learning, as learning, off learning, whichever things are you using, whichever technique are you using, you're going to mention it over here. And then evaluation. How are you gathering the data? That means if it is formative assessment, are you putting up the those anecdotal notes, or you're putting up the small you're making your own notes, you're putting up the observation sheet? Whichever way you're collecting the data, it can even be a video recording, but that's evaluation is all about data gathering technique. So you're going to put up all the entire project one by one here, and then okay, one thing, for projects, you'll find number of projects online. So try searching on those. So instead of reinventing the wheel, you can pick up one of those and improvise it to your context. But if it is that you want to make your own project, that is also totally up to you. We are leaving it open for you. Okay. So pick up the project, work it out for yourself, but make sure that the project means there should be number of activities, but the learning outcome should be one. The end outcome for students should be one. Okay, so if it is English, Maybe by the end of the entire project, students may write their own stories with pictures in it or something like that. So that's an entire project. Students may start going around and looking at something and then come back, and then you may have several activities in order to make that last learning outcome, and that learning outcome should directly relate to the curriculum target. Okay, and then once you're done with the entire project, then you're going to evaluate teaching and learning. What were you teaching? What were the students learning? Again, it will come out of the data gathering techniques. That means those observation forms. These observation forms should be your evidences. Okay, so if you're putting up something like that, make sure you add an image over here, because this is a flexible document. There's no word limit over here. The word limit is all over to the portfolio document. So make sure that you are putting up all the evidences over here. If it is an evaluation, data gathering technique that you're using, make sure that becomes an evidence and part of your portfolio evidence. Okay. It says this portion is to evaluate if the learners have learned what you have taught, and mention how you use data gathering tools to evaluate teaching and learning. How did you use it? What happened? Mention everything. Okay. And then evaluation of an entire project. You have developed a project yourself. So now you're going to evaluate whether the project was in a proper sequence. Was it too challenging? Was it under challenge? Was it easy for the students to follow your instructions, or you should have made more clear instructions, maybe in different forms, maybe, or the project duration was too small or too long, and all those things needs to come in as in project evaluation. In connection with what teaching and learning took place, evaluate the project as a whole and what would you like to change and why. If you have to do the same project next time, what would you like to change and why would you like to change? You have to talk about that. Okay, once you fill in this entire project document, which is in the evidence folder, you'll be able to fill in the portfolio template. Now coming back to portfolio template. Okay, when you come back to your portfolio template, you'll see that once you've written down your profile over there, and you'll be able to analyze and put the gist of it over here in 150 words. Okay, when you're going to introduce your student, class, level, learner profile, learning areas involved, and project you plan. A little bit about it. 150 words is very limited, so just put it into simple words, because everything is going to be referred over there. So if you think that there are a lot of details you want to talk about, just refer it back saying, okay, please see project plan. That's it. That one line explains a lot, but at least give me a brief, introduction over here. And then rationale. Rationale is your purpose of making the project. What do you want to see? What do you want to find out? Maybe I want to find out that whatever Vygotsky said about social interaction. So I want to find out whether social interaction leads to learning or not. So it's about social constructivism. Or maybe if it is Piaget's concept, wherein we talk about adoption, accommodation, and assimilation. So again, does it really work with the students? Is it the same way when students learn new vocabulary, then assimilate with other, associate with the similar type, and then accommodate means create their own meanings out of it, or maybe they store it in their schema and then move forward. So there are different schemas in their mind in them, which builds one after the other. So is it really working? Is it what Piaget is saying is practical or not? So you wanted to check that, or somewhat or the other. You have to pick up the rationale. Why are you doing this project, and what do you need to find out? This is what will become the base of your reflection as well. So be very careful in selecting your rationale for the project. Okay. Now, once you have picked up your rationale, see, it says a description of how you designed the project to integrate earliest education philosophy to support learning, and why have you selected the following aspect. What are your goals? So what are you intending to find out? Okay, what are your goals? Why have you selected this particular aspect, and what do you want to prove? You may agree with these philosophers, you may disagree with them, you may derive their own meaning out of it, you may derive your own philosophy out of it. It is perfectly fine if you do that. but you have to be very analytical, very critical when you're working it out. Okay. So implementation of project. Then you're going to talk about how the project went. You are doing the project. Now you have to talk about how did it go. So you make sure that when you're implementing the project, you're making your notes throughout so that you have enough things to talk about when you come down to this one. Okay. Now this is 400 words. So you have to talk about how was the project conducted, how did you respond to it, did you get any feedback from learner. That means sometimes you plan for interactive session, but the students are not willing to sit in the groups and work. They are rather finding it very easy to work individually, or they prefer working individually. You give them full autonomy and then mention it over here that just because my students wanted to work, or maybe so and so student wanted to work separately, I allowed them to work separately. And if it is social interaction, that is your rationale, then this reflection will help you out in your in your reflection when you want to criticize Vygotsky, that it's not always social interaction which makes students learn. Okay. Now, evaluation of teaching and learning. You have already done the evaluation over there. Put in the gist over here, analytical, in 350 words only. You're going to talk about the teaching practice, the learner's learning. You're going to use feedback from variety of source. If you're getting your lesson observed by somebody, so you will have their feedback as well. And if you're taking feedback from the students in the form of smiley faces, then those are again your evidences, and though that's another way of collecting a data. Your evaluation. So again, that's another source of information. Or maybe if you're involving the parents in the project, then you might have their feedback as well, and that feedback may also serve as a evaluation of the teaching and learning that you did in the classroom. So that may be another source of information for you. Then identify existing strengths and those aspects that needs further development. That means you're going to talk about it. I'm good at this, but I need further practice in so and so things. So you need to be in a position to criticize yourself at this point. Okay. Then comes down the evaluation of project. When you're talking about evaluation of project, then you're going to focus on the issue experienced and their effects on the quality of learning. You are now, it's the same evaluation which you have done over there. Over there was no limit. You could go, you can express yourself as long as you want. But over here, you have to limit it to 350 words. Why are we doing this? Is because over there, when you sit down to write, I want you to be open and write everything that you want to. But over here, be analytical and see what is really important, or maybe what is really important in terms of what your rationale was. Maybe what is really important in terms of your learning in connection to the rationale that you choose. So be analytical and make sure that everything is making connection. It should be linking to one another. Your rationale should link to the entire project for implementation, evaluation, every single thing. So here you need to be really analytical. Okay. Then coming down to reflection. This is where you're going to engage with concepts. You're going to talk about making connections between your observations, experience, opinion. Now, here comes in your opinion. Okay. This is what I thought. This is what I experienced, and this is what my learning is. And this is what I would like to do next. Now, what I do like to do next will come in your next action plan. But over here, you have to talk about your experience, your opinions, your your observations, and then what's your learning finally out of it. So whatever we see, whatever we do, whatever we experience, it all becomes our learning. So if we are able to learn something, means we are successful. Okay, reflection is 1200 to 1500 words. Okay. Now coming down to action plan. Now when you already identified, or you already worked out your your project, and then you reflected now that this was my experience and I'm really good at this. You've identified your strengths. At this particular time, you must have identified your weaknesses as well. And that's what you need to be talking about when you're making your action plan. You identify the target. Maybe I need to be more, I need to explore teaching strategies, more teaching strategies maybe. Or maybe learner-centered teaching strategies. And then what are we going to be? What are going to be my steps? So I'm going to be, research. I will conduct a research. Conduct research. Pick new strategy. Get observation done. Critical friend observation. And then evaluate on the basis of feedback. And then the cycle repeats 10 times maybe in a year. That means I'm going to repeat the same cycle 3 times at least. Okay. And then who are the people who are going to be involved? Are going to be myself, of course. And then my critical friend. My critical friend can be my colleague or my course mate. I would suggest if they are course mate on your, in your school, then you should take their help and make them read your assignment and let them talk about it, that what did they get out of your assignment before you even submit it. That means you're going to get it proofread it. Okay, this proofreading is going to help you because it is a layman person who's reading your entire project and giving you feedback what she got out of your project and what she got out of your assignment. And that's how we are going to read it. So make sure that you get it proofreaded from your friend. And then timeline, maybe a year. That is, let's give it a more accurate date till 2018, 2017 to 2018. And let's make it more specific. Maybe if it is 2017 and I'm submitting somewhere in November, so November 2017 to November 2018. That means I'm giving myself good 1 year to practice this particular, and then success criteria that I'm able to implement at least 3 consecutive lessons with child-centered teaching strategies. That's my success criteria. Okay, so and your colleague will help you reach to your success criteria. Now, bibliography is well explained in your this template portfolio guide. Now when you go through the portfolio guide, let's just go through it, skip scan and go through it. Introduction to portfolio. As a trainee, you need to maintain a portfolio, and the aim is to provide a tool to learners for learners to engage while working in early years. All modules in the course will provide learners with theoretical knowledge required to be effective teachers. Okay, ownership, of course, it's your portfolio. You have to own it. What to include in my portfolio? Talk about your training, your Edmodo, where you talk about a lot of things. If it is, you can even make your learning log out of the Edmodo account. Okay, if it is something that we were talking about on Edmodo and which brought a new learning for you, you can write a learning log on that too. Okay. And then you can talk about we've already got all these details. We've already been through these details, and every detail has a little paragraph over here to explain what needs to be there. Okay, personal details include description of your education, professional. This is already there. We've already been through. Job responsibilities also mentioned over here. Job title, job objective, overall purpose, summary of the general nature and the level of job, list of duties or tasks performed critical to success. And then key functional and relational responsibilities in order of significance, and description of the relationship and the role with the company, including the supervisor position, subordinating roles, and other working relationships. What avoid? Do not be inflexible with your job responsibility. Jobs are subject to change for personal growth, organizational development, and don't put in your opinions over there. Just give straight facts. Okay? Statement of teaching philosophy. How are you going to develop your philosophy? It's all mentioned over here. This, if you read out this entire passage, it will help you a lot. And then competencies, we've already discussed that it's there in the this California competency list. You're going to go through that and you're going to fill in the checklist which is given. These are again the same criteria which is mentioned in your template. And then coming down to project, what the project should be like, the rationale should be like, the implementation, evaluation, what should be there in the evaluation of teaching and learning. You can talk about observation, questioning, evaluation, again, data gathering technique. I've already talking about this. Now, how to develop your project. There's one site given over here. There are some ideas over there already. You can even search for new ideas if you want. Reflection, how to develop your reflection around. This is all mentioned. And if you work around these areas, content and process and reason, it will help you a lot. You're going to talk about what have I learned? Do I understand what I've learned? What can I do to have a better understanding? You need to understand, you need to regulate your learning. It's not about somebody else will not take a responsibility. You have to be responsible for your own learning. And how are you going to be responsible? That's what you need to be developing over here. Okay. Now, action plan, again, it's mentioned how to go about the action plan. Bibliography, referencing. Referencing is when you are writing somebody's words, you need to reference it back. You can't say that these are my words. It's very easy. Your entire portfolio will run through plagiarism. Plagiarism is when we are able to find out whether these words are yours or somebody else's. So try not to copy any word from anywhere or any paragraph from anywhere, because when running through the plagiarism software, it will be detected, and it may lead to consequences. So let's not do that. Let's be fair. Let's be legal, and let's work it out ourselves. Okay? I know you can do it. Avoid plagiarism, then appendices. How are you going to reference each of these appendices? It's already mentioned. Like, for example, if you're saying that I want to talk, my rationale of my project is Vygotsky concept of social constructivism, then definitely I would have read about Vygotsky somewhere and I would have made my learning log on it. So I'm going to put LL01, which is going to be about Vygotsky. So I'm going to say that I have developed my course around Vygotsky concept of social constructivism. Then in bracket I'll put up LL underscore 01 bracket close, and then I'll continue with my sentence. That yes, because he's been talking about social constructivism and I'm really interested in finding it out and this and that. But this LL01 will give us an evidence that you've read about Vygotsky, or maybe you've learned about Vygotsky in the training session, which is in reference, and you have referred it over here, and then you're talking about it, that you want to find out whether it works in your classroom or not. Okay, so you're going to refer each of your learning log or reading log that you are entering into your evidence folder. Okay, like I've given you an example over here, that this should also be the file name of your same item. For example, your portfolio item may include the following learning logs: LL underscore 01, LL underscore 02. Now, whichever learning log you think is in connection with what project you are doing, or the rationale you're working on, or the reflection that you're talking about, you're going to put only those learning log and reading log inside your evidence folder. Nothing extra should be there. If you're talking about your last degree, then put that last degree scanned copy in your evidence folder and mention it over there, last degree. Name it as last degree. Okay, so and when you're talking about in your portfolio template, then mention as attached, last degree as attached. Okay, but everything should be in the evidence folder. Now, reading log, similarly, make your reading log, and reading log title should be RL underscore, that reading is for R, learning is for L underscore 01. There's one example. The source of this reading log has been already given over here. So you also have to source back everything that you write from somebody else. Classroom observation. I would suggest if you either record your session, or maybe you ask somebody to sit in your class, your course mate to sit in your classroom and observe your classroom for a particular reason, maybe social interaction again, maybe Piaget's concept again, maybe Maslow's concept again, wherein you want them to be, or maybe about cognitive development, whichever, or maybe type of play that you want to incorporate. So whatever is your rationale for creating that entire project, you need to make sure that you're putting up that as an evidence. So if you want to evidence it further, make sure that you get it observed or videotaped, and then put that videotape and maybe chunks of those videotape in your portfolio and say that this is what I want to talk about and this is how it worked. So that's again an evidence of what you have done. The learning story, it's already mentioned how to write the learning story, and the file name would be ls. Okay, you can add in the photographs, you can annotate. You need to annotate your work. Annotate your work means all those evidence that you're putting up in your evidence folder, you need to write something in the corner as an annotation, that why do you think this is related to your where have you referenced it, and how do you think it is related to your portfolio. Okay, these are some tips over here to develop an effective portfolio. Now, review the early years teacher competencies. We've already shared that you need to review those and mark yourself, and then think about the competencies, what serve as evidence of your progress. Now, once you'll be writing down your reflection also, you'll talk about how do you think you have developed after implementing the project, what change has come in you as well. Then collect artifacts as you work, document your efforts, document everything that you're doing. So it'll be very easy for you to, when you're going to sit down and reflect, it'll be very easy for you. Okay, keep referring back to the competency and see how you're developing as a professional. Short catalog and reflect on the evidence collected. Write descriptions. Now, when you sit down to, when we are making you write your learning logs and reading logs and everything. Why? Because once you will sit down to write your final assignment, you'll have enough evidences to put it into your assignment. Okay, you might not include all of those, but you'll have something to pick and choose, so it'll be easier for you to complete the assignment. Okay, reflect on your progress, what was successful, what was not successful, challenges you faced, or maybe something that became your strength, maybe something that was weakness. You'll thoroughly enjoy this. Present your portfolio in a professional manner. Make sure that it is put together immaculately, and then follow the given specifications. Your font size should be 12. Font type should be Arial or New Times Roman. Image format should be JPEG, pasted in a Word document with an annotation. Folder size, your final portfolio folder size should be 5 to 7 megabytes and not more than that. And then, you're going to compress the entire folder to a zip file, and with your name and school name. Example, Amna Wajid TCN 1 North Nazabad. That's the name and the school name together. That should be the name of your zip file, which you're going to send it to me. That's all, I think. And if you feel there are any problems, you can always put it up on Edmodo. We'll always be there for helping you out. Try to be innovative in your project. Try to be creative in your project. Give a lot of autonomy to the children and feel the happiness of learning. And I'm really sure that you're going to enjoy yourself, and I'm going to enjoy reading your portfolios. So all the best, and thank you.